Okay, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of betting exchanges.
Okay.
Have you ever, placed a bet using a traditional sports book and felt kind of stuck with whatever odds they were offering?
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Like there's no room to negotiate or anything. It's like take it or leave it.
Right.
Well, imagine if you could haggle, like haggling for a better price at a market, but with those odds. That's the basic idea behind betting exchanges.
Interesting.
It's more like a peer-to-peer platform for betting.
Okay.
And one of the things that really jumped out at us from, all the research we did is this concept of fairer pricing. What's the deal with that? What makes it fairer?
Well, the interesting thing about betting exchanges is that they cut out the middleman, so to speak.
Yeah.
With a traditional sports book, the house, they always build in a profit margin, right? That's the vig.
Right, right.
But with exchanges, users are actually setting the odds themselves by matching bets against each other.
Oh, okay. So instead of that guaranteed cut for the house, it's more about connecting people who have different opinions on, like, how a game or match is going to play out.
Exactly. And because you're often able to get better odds this way, it can potentially lead to much better returns for you as a better proportion over time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like the difference between buying something retail and getting it wholesale, right? You're
Exactly.
cutting out the extra cost that someone else was, tacking on.
Right.
Now, another thing that kept coming up in our research was this idea of liquidity.
Yes.
I get that it's about how easy it is to get your bets matched,
Right.
but break it down for me. Why should I, as someone who might be new to this, really care about liquidity?
So you're right. Liquidity is all about getting your bets matched quickly and at the amounts you want. High liquidity means there's just a ton of action happening on the platform.
Lots of people.
Yeah, lots of people, lots of opinions, and it means you're much more likely to find someone who's willing to take the other side of your bet.
So more people, more action, faster matches for my bets. Got it.
Exactly.
But what if I'm the kind of person who likes to go against the grain, bet against the popular pick?
Right.
Is there a way to do that on these exchanges?
Absolutely. And that's where lay bets come in.
Lay bets.
Yeah, and it's honestly one of the most unique things about betting exchanges.
Okay.
So imagine this. You're watching a game with a friend and you're totally convinced a certain team is going to lose.
Right.
But instead of just saying, I told you so, afterward, you can actually use a lay bet to, well, kind of take on the role of the bookmaker yourself.
Interesting.
You're essentially offering your friend odds on that team not winning. That's laying a bet.
So it's like I'm saying, I'm so sure this won't happen. I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is.
Exactly.
That's wild. I've definitely never been able to do that with those, traditional sports books. Like they only want to deal with the optimists or something.
Yeah, it's a completely different way of thinking about betting. And it opens up all sorts of strategic possibilities. You can hedge your bets, try to profit from other people's predictions, and really get into the nitty-gritty of sports analysis.
It's like you're not just betting on the game anymore. You're betting on your understanding of the entire game, the players, the coaches, everything.
Exactly. It's a whole different ballgame.
This is already blowing my mind, but there's more, right? What about this transparency thing? I kept seeing that pop up in our research.
Right, transparency. Well, that's another major advantage of these betting exchanges.
Okay.
It's about how they operate in a much more open way
Right.
compared to traditional sports books.
Okay.
You see, traditional sports books, they often keep their cards pretty close to their chest. They don't want you to see all their secrets.
Right.
But exchanges, they give you this real-time data on every single bet that's being placed.
Wow. So you mean I can actually see how much money is going on, each team, each outcome, everything?
Pretty much. You even have access to something called the order book, which shows you all the bets being placed, the odds people are offering, the volume of money at stake.
So I can see what everyone else is thinking, what they're betting on.
It's like having X-ray vision into the market sentiment.
So instead of just going with my gut or whatever, I can actually see the data, see what other people are betting, and use that to make a smarter bet.
Exactly. That's the power of transparency. It's like having this extra layer of information that you can use to your advantage.
I love that. Okay, so we've got fairer pricing, more control over our bets, all this transparency. But let's shift gears for a sec and talk about the community aspect.
Okay.
Because our sources mentioned this idea that betting exchanges can actually foster this sense of community among the users.
Right. And it's true.
And I get that, people bet on sports with their friends all the time, but is it really that different on these exchanges?
It can be. Think of it this way. On a betting exchange, You're plugged into this whole network of people who share your passion.
Okay.
They might be into the same sport, follow the same teams, and you can actually see what they're betting on, how they're analyzing the odds. You can even, in a way, learn from their strategies.
So it's like having a whole team of like virtual betting buddies, but these buddies actually, kind of know what they're doing.
Exactly. And it can be super valuable, especially if you're new to betting exchanges or just want to,
Yeah.
improve your game. You can exchange tips, discuss matches, bounce ideas off each other, that sort of thing.
That's actually really cool. It's like, those online forums where people geek out about like, I don't know, the best Star Wars movie or something.
Right.
It's like that. But instead, you're talking about whether like the Warriors are going to cover the spread.
Exactly. And look, it's important to develop your own analytical skills, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to just blindly follow the crowd.
Of course not.
But there's a lot to be said for, tapping into that collective wisdom of a community that really lives and breathes this stuff.
Yeah. It's like anything else in life. Having, a mentor or a group of people who really get it, it can make a huge difference.
For sure. It can really speed up that learning curve
Yeah.
and help you avoid some of those, common mistakes that people make when they're just starting out.
Yeah.
But, like any good mentor would tell you, it's important to develop your own instincts, your own risk tolerance. Don't just,
Don't just bet on something because everyone else is.
exactly. Do your own research, understand why the odds are what they are.
Right. Right. Bet responsibly.
Exactly.
Speaking of responsibility, this all sounds, I don't know, almost too good to be true. Are there like downsides to these exchanges that we should be aware of? I mean, there's got to be a flip side, right? So there's got to be a catch, right? What are the downsides?
Well, there are always trade-offs, right?
Right.
Like we've been talking about setting your own odds and how great that is.
Right.
But the thing is, you got to find someone who actually agrees with your assessment.
Oh.
So there's a chance your bet doesn't get matched if your odds are, way off from what everyone else is thinking.
So if I'm being too much of a lone wolf with my predictions, I might end up like out in the cold.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with those like more obscure events,
Okay.
niche sports, you might not find enough people to get those bets matched. It's
Yeah.
like trying to sell a rare comic book.
Right.
You might know it's valuable,
Right.
but good luck finding a buyer.
Okay, so maybe stick with the mainstream stuff, at least when you're starting out. What else? What other downsides should I watch out for?
Well, this is going to sound kind of obvious, but with more control comes more responsibility.
Right.
You're basically acting as your own odds maker here,
Yeah.
which means you need a solid understanding of the sport, the teams, all of it.
You got to know your stuff.
Yeah, you can't just pick a winner anymore. You really got to understand those probabilities, manage your risk, the whole 9 yards.
So it's not just about luck. You got to have some knowledge behind those bets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Betting exchanges, they reward you for making informed decisions. And that takes time, research, a willingness to learn.
It's like you said, it's a different ballgame, more advanced, like
Yeah.
leveling up.
Yeah.
You're not just a player anymore. You're part of the action behind the scenes.
Exactly. And honestly, I think that's what makes it so interesting, so exciting. It's this whole new way to look at betting.
Yeah, it's like betting is evolving or something.
Yeah.
It's not just about that old school, kind of shady system.
Right.
It's becoming more transparent, more in tune with how we do things today. We want control. We want transparency, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And while I don't think those traditional sports books are going anywhere anytime soon, I do think that this whole rise of betting exchanges,
Yeah.
it says something about us.
Yeah.
It says something about how we, as a society, are starting to think about risk and reward. And not just with betting, but maybe with other parts of our lives too. Who knows?
Wow, that is something to think about. So to wrap things up, it seems like these betting exchanges, they offer a whole new way to approach sports betting. It's less about blind luck, more about strategy, information, maybe even a little bit of community spirit.
I think that's a great way to put it. And as with anything new, the key is to go in with an open mind, do your homework, and of course, always bet responsibly.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And hey, if you want to learn more about betting exchanges, we've got some resources linked in the show notes, so check those out. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.